Hello, I'm Julie Kay. Welcome to my YouTube channel, and today is my part 3 on anxiety. And I've had a part 1 and 2 over the last 2 weeks. I encourage you to go back and find them. I will put them in the description here. And this one is on feeling safe. Part of helping us understand why we deal with anxiety and how to work through the anxiety and how to help reduce the anxiety is to understand our need to feel safe. So today I want to share first 2 things that are facts about safety. And one is feeling safe, stable, and secure is central to our health and well-being. Okay, that is a known fact, and it is a true fact. Second of all, do you remember the Maslow's hierarchy of needs? We learned about in whatever class, I don't know. But an established person who made a hierarchy of needs that is very much accepted as truth. And so his hierarchy of needs, it puts feeling safe as ranked only second to food, water, and air. And it's so essential that we must have it to survive. We must have safety to survive. Now, if you think about it, shelter is part of safety, right? So we need shelter. And shelter, having various types of shelter, the greater the shelter it can be, the greater the safety sometimes, right? So that's part of it. But I wanted to establish that safety is very important physically, but it's also very important emotionally. So when one of the things I realized too, like for instance in our home, I'm in Florida and there's other states that get hurricanes too, so I'm just going to use hurricanes. Could be a tornado that is like coming down the path or going to hit in your area or could hit in your area. So I'm going to use those as my example today. But when we know that a hurricane's coming, we can know that it's a very, very serious danger depending on, what category the hurricane is, etc. For us, that we may need to evacuate and get out of our house because it's not safe, right? Or we stay in our home, but we're afraid about that happening. That's probably going to disturb our rest, isn't it? It could possibly, or maybe disturb our sleep, right? You say, of course, Julie. This depends on us and how we're, each individual and each individual circumstance. Maybe we will just not sleep as well or as long, or maybe we won't sleep at all because we're afraid about that storm coming or that tornado coming, possibly coming, right? So with that said, I realized that, excuse me, if we don't feel safe, we're not going to rest. This is just a general statement. When we don't feel safe, we don't rest as well or at all, whatever it is. When we don't feel safe, we don't rest. We don't rest as well, right? So that's why we can get restless or anxious and deal with it more when we feel a potential danger. That danger could be a real danger, like literally, the weathermen and all, they know it's coming, the hurricane's coming, or a tornado possibility. That is usually an actual threat, right? But we can have a perceived threat as well. So even if it's just a perceived threat, if we feel unsafe, then we feel unsafe. And this is what our bodies do. But I want to establish that whether it's perceived or actual, if we feel unsafe, this is what our body's going to do. It sends off like an alarm system going off, and our cortisol and our adrenaline increases, and therefore our heart rate goes up. Our blood flow actually can go from our internal organs and be directed more to our limbs in order for us to fight or flee that situation. That is a God-given way for us to deal with it. And these reactions to perceived or real threats lead to increased negative mental health, anxiety, and depression very often, especially with those who've been through a lot of trauma. When those, if you've been through a lot of trauma, then all the more you're probably going to, if it's surfaced and you're aware of it, all the more you're more likely to be anxious because you may be just afraid that this is going to happen again. And maybe you're in a totally safe, I hope you're in a totally safe relationship, home, place, atmosphere, etc. Because if you're not, please get in a safe place and get that help immediately, because you are hurting your body, your health, and your mind, and you need to be safe. You are important. I'll say that right now. But even if it's not really an actual threat, but it's perceived threat, your body is doing this because of this. Until you work through that and get more healing from that and not feel that threat as much. Okay? And I went through domestic violence, so I can relate to this some. So with that, I want to go to another comment about that. With that, again, it's either perceived or not perceived. All it has to do is be perceived. Perceived or actual, sorry about that. So only when we have perceived safety will our stress response be at bay or inhibited. Because one of the articles I read said that it's always ready. It's ready to go if it has to go. The only way to calm it and keep it calmer is to continually feel safe. Okay? So, my scripture for today, with that, before I do the scripture, I want to just encourage you to get help, spend time on figuring out what is making you anxious. What is the perceived threat? Is it emotional relationship? Is it emotional? Is it physical? Is it from past trauma? What is it? Because that's so important to find the source so you can get help. And please do get help from a coach or a counselor or a therapist or somebody, a good, safe friend, because you need to get that help so that you can work through that anxiety. All right, so my verse for today is Matthew 11, verses 28 and 29. And Jesus says, "Come to me, all you who are weary and burdened, and I will give you rest. Take my yoke upon you and learn from me, for I am gentle and humble of heart. And you will find rest for your souls, for my yoke is easy and my burden is light." Now, many things can be discussed about what Jesus says here. It's a very powerful passage, and to understand what he's saying. And there's a whole teaching, I'm sure various people have taught about verse 30, about my yoke is easy and my burden is light. I encourage you to look into that. It has to do with, Jesus is referring to two oxens being attached together when he talks about a yoke. And it's a very powerful side to this for you to learn. But I want to just go back to when he says, "Come to me." If I say, "Come to me," or I say, "Come to me," to my children, or grandma, grandpa, or somebody just says, "Come, come, come, come." What do you think one of the things they're saying by doing that? I could see that they're saying, "I'm safe. It's okay. I'm not going to hurt you. I want to tell you something. I want to help you. I don't want to hurt you." That's an endearing thing to say, and I believe Jesus there is saying, "I'm safe. It's okay. You can come to me." And all you who are weary and burdened, I think definitely includes anxiety and depression, but we're focusing in on anxiety today. If you're anxious, you get more tired. If you're depressed, you get more tired. Being burdened is like the worries. Worry is burdensome. Suppressed anger, which is sometimes what's behind depression, that's heavy. Grief is heavy. The loss of your loved one, you're going to feel heavy a lot of times, and maybe for a long time feel heavy. So I believe Jesus is addressing grief and loss here, as well as anxiety for sure. And then he says, "I'll give you rest." Well, like I just said, if we don't feel safe, we're not going to rest as well, or maybe rest at all. So he's saying, "I'm safe. You who are anxious, and come to me. I'm safe, and I'll give you rest. Take my yoke upon you and learn from me, for I'm gentle and humble of heart." That gentle and humble of heart, think about this for a minute. Do you know anybody who's gentle and humble of heart? Or anywhere near that? Or maybe you haven't thought of it in those words, but somebody, do you know at least one person who's safe and you feel safe to be around, and who exudes peace, maybe helps you find peace, or you feel okay to talk to them and you're not anxious around them as much? Jesus is saying, I think again, that I'm safe. I'm not going to judge you. I'm not going to hurt you. I'm not going to reject you. I'm humble and gentle, and you will find rest for your souls. He's not even talking about the body, he's talking about our souls. And in order for our bodies to find rest, our souls do need to find rest. So if you're having issues with sleep, there's things to explore with that, what's going on. But I really believe he's saying he's safe. And I hope that you hear me right now. If you're listening and are just so wounded in your heart, and you're so hurt over the losses or the trauma you've been through, and you don't feel safe hardly around anybody, Jesus is safe. And I pray, and I hope you pray and cry out to him to know his safety and to find somebody who's safe, because there are safe people out there that you can come into a friendship or relationship with, or therapists that are safe, because you need to find at least one person you can be safe with, so that you can find healing and hope and learn to cope with what you're dealing with. So I really do care. If you want to set up a complimentary consult, a whole free hour that I do with anybody, no obligations after that, you are welcome to do that. I will put that in the description, as well as the links to the 2 videos before this, so that you can go back and watch those other 2. I'm Julie Kay, helping you find your way through grief, loss, how to deal with anxiety. That's what we're talking about. If you got anything out of this video, I hope you comment and let me know and share it out. God bless you. See you next week. Bye.